our voter guide together. Who knows the voter guide? Does everybody know about the voter guide? Yes, yes, yes. We have this incredible tool that helps voters go from the top of the ticket all the way down through the nonpartisan section. Since 2016, our voter guide has cut down ballot drop-off in half. It was 50% in 2016, and it was 25% in the last cycle. This is a really, really important tool. Help us get it out. It's like $30,000 of our money. Nobody else is paying for this. So please donate to the party. One way you can donate to the party is, oh, it was up before. Go to the garden party. It's a beautiful event at the former chair's home. All this great vegan delicacies and a beautiful party, and everybody's there. And Dana Nessel is our special guest. So make it, it's July 27th. I said 4 to 7, but it's 3 to 6. And it's it's on the landing page of our website. So just go to washtenaw.org and you'll find it. And any other way you want to donate to is great. I put my own eye out. Sorry. Also, okay, so I want to see who's in the room. Electeds, raise your hands, dance a jig. Everybody look around, see the electeds who represent you. Thank you for electing them. This is our power. Precinct delegates. I am one, been for a long time. Hi, great, okay, wonderful. How about new visitors, new people here? Stand up or raise your hand, stand up. Yay! Yay! Welcome. We're so glad you're here. As you know, this is a year where we really need everybody, absolutely everybody. So we're super, super happy that you're here. Sharon Simonton, where are you? Sharon back there, who is at the welcome table, is the co-chair of membership and is our volunteer coordinator. So she will be the one who's in touch with you, along with her helper, Henriette. Henriette, where are you? Henriette, who will be in touch with you to see how you want to help us win this fall. Does anybody, hang on, the glasses have to go on and off, on and off. Oh, I know, executive board members of the executive board, Rayanne and Justin and Kathy and I and Sharon and who else, Josephine, the secretary. I just want you to know that your all volunteer executive board really carries water. So you're welcome. And thank you for your help. We really appreciate it. All the executive board and the people on all the committees. All right. Does anybody have any quick announcements for, yeah. Hi, Joanne. Real quick. I'm talking quick. Super quick. This is not like.
Library at 12:45.
Thank you.
They're already stamped.
Thanks, Joanne. That was really a model of quick. And thanks for reminding me, we also have the CD6, the 6th Congressional District picnic at Frog Island Park, which is just right over here, close. It's over in Ypsilanti. This afternoon.
Depot Town.
It's free. So please, in Depot Town. Thanks, yep. Tom. So come on over for that. And lots of other activities, including stuff to do, to get the vote out, and door knocking and so forth, is on our website, washtenaw.org. You really, really need to get the newsletter if you're not getting the newsletter. So again, washtenaw.org, go there, get involved. About three layers down, it's newsletter. Get the newsletter so you can look at all the past issues of the newsletter and sign up to get the newsletter. It's once a week. We don't really bug you, but it's really, 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 really good. It's the source for info. Okay, so any announcements? Jeff, you want to say anything? State Senator Jeff Irwin.
Thank you, Theresa. And thanks everybody for being here. I just want to say a couple of things. One, if you're like me, it's been, a challenging couple of weeks. I think tensions are very high. I think all of us are feeling that this is a really important election and we need to be, getting active to try to, save our democracy. And things have been getting more and more concerning on that front. And I just want to tell you that if you're here, you're in the right place. And the thing that I've always told myself over the years when I've gotten frustrated in these moments is, What I can do is I can go and dig in with my local party. I can go and I can find local candidates who are doing good work right here in our community. I can find people who are running for state representative or some of your state senate, and dig in on those races, because when you do it, you'll find that it feels right. When you're out there talking to regular people about what we can do in Lansing to make our state a better place, that completely transcends all of the icky national and international stuff that is happening. And if you can reach a voter on that issue of like, hey, we need to elect, for instance, Jennifer Conlon up here in Hamburg Township. This is a race that's going to tip the balance in the Michigan Senate and decide whether or not we have a right to choose, decide whether or not we have great schools in every zip code, decide whether or not we protect clean water in the Great Lakes. That's what's at stake at the state level. And I want to encourage everybody to look at the state level, look at the local level, because there's a lot of great stories that we can use to uplift the Democratic message, to show people that Democrats do care, that Democrats do deliver. And I want to make sure you get those messages. So just incredibly briefly, we just passed the state budget. I'll give you two little tiny things that happened just in the last month that you could talk to people about. One, Michigan still has some of the worst open records laws in the entire state. Michigan has been a cesspool for public transparency for decades, and we finally passed an update to our state open records laws. And now the Michigan legislature, and soon when the governor signs it, the governor will be subjected to open records laws like FOIA. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. We've been talking about it for years. The Michigan legislature has refused to do it for decades because it's been in the control of Republicans. The Michigan Senate, where I worked, was continuously controlled by Republicans from 1983 until last year. And that's why we couldn't do a lot of these great things. But because Democrats are in control, we now have good transparency laws for our state legislature. It could be better, but now we've got a big improvement. And transparency is something, and open records and fighting corruption is something that we need to be talking about. It's popular, it transcends partisanship, and it puts a finger in the face of the other party's corrupt criminal nominee. The other thing I'll just mention, because it's near and dear to my heart, is last month we secured $20 million for permanent supportive housing. For folks who know Avalon Housing, this is the model they use, and I'm trying to make sure that this model goes statewide and that we fund organizations that are doing great affordable housing here in Washtenaw County and all over the state. And when you talk to voters, who are Democrats, when you talk to voters who are Republicans, you talk to voters who don't care about politics, I'll tell you what, they care about their housing costs. They care about the crippling housing costs that people are facing here in the state of Michigan. So that's something else that we've done in Lansing to deliver for people on something that we all care about. These are things that we can connect our voters with. We can motivate people to get out and vote, even if things that, nationally or internationally are dragging them down. So I wanted to give you a couple tools. I wanted to encourage you to focus on some of the great work that's happening in Lansing. And I just wanted to thank you for being here, because we need all hands on deck.
He's great. I love Jeff. So also County Board of Commissioners, super important races, pay attention to those. And of course the judgeships, super important races, pay attention to those. There's a ton we can do. Jeff's point, we're not just voting for the top of the ticket. We're voting for a whole Democratic rate. We want a whole Democratic government, and that's super important. I also want to mention two other, if you want to jump in right now and help vulnerable House members who represent parts of Washtenaw County. Jeff mentioned Jennifer Conlon. She's north and she's going into Livingston County, which is pretty conservative. She's fabulous. We have a new candidate, Daniel Mahoney. He's not going for re-election. He's going for election for the first time. I think it's HD 46. That's HD 46. He goes into Jackson County. He's come from Chelsea on into Jackson County. That's a vulnerable seat where we want to flip that seat. It's a Republican now. We're going to flip that seat. And then down in the southeast part of the county is Reggie Miller. She's fantastic. And that seat goes into Monroe County. And that is another red area. And we need Reggie back in the legislature. So right now, and you can go to our website, find the latest newsletter. All the contact information for those folks is in the newsletter, has been for the last few weeks, actually. So if you want to jump in right now, volunteer for those two House members and one House aspirant.
Really happy to be here today. And I'm always happy talking about the court and what the courts do. and I brought a visual aid. This is something that that I developed 12 years, excuse me, 12 years ago when I was running for my seat. I'm a circuit court judge in Washtenaw County. I was the chief judge for 5 years, and for 4 of those years, I was also the chief judge of 14A District Court. So I think I know a lot about how the courts work. I've gone back to just being a rank and file judge, but I am continuing to try to do everything that I can to improve our court system and make it accessible and make sure that we're serving Washtenaw County as well as we can. I'm just going to set this down for a second to pass these out. I don't have anything particular prepared to talk about today. And I usually don't feel like I need to prepare to talk about the courts because it's what I live and breathe. I've been a lawyer for a long time, for over 30 years. And I've been a judge for 12 of those years, almost 12. Thank you all for helping me last 12 years ago to become elected. I have been reelected once without opposition. I'm on the ballot again this year without opposition, but I dusted off one of my old campaign pins because I do hope that I work every day to continue to earn the respect that the community has placed in me. This visual aid will show you what the Michigan state courts look like. When I was working on it last night with my wife, Elizabeth, she said, "This is funny the way that you did this with the trial courts at the top and the Supreme Court at the bottom. Usually you see, kind of a hierarchy working its way up to the top." And I'll say to you what I would say to even my friends on the Michigan Supreme Court. Well, we do the really important work in the trial courts. The trial courts are where, if anyone has contact with the court system, it is in the trial court. That's where you start. And it's very few people ever have their name spoken in the Supreme Court. If they do, it's probably not a good day. But in any event, when I talk about trial courts and appellate courts, they are truly that. The courts that we have in Washtenaw County are all trial courts. They're where if you are asserting your rights and you haven't found a way to resolve them, you are going to have a trial. That's what happens. And if you are unsatisfied with the result, or if your opponent is unsatisfied with the result, that's when you end up in the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court. Our courtrooms look very different for those reasons. The courtrooms in a trial court typically have a jury box because most of our issues are decided by juries. With the exception of a few things, including most prominently divorces and family law matters. Those are decided by a judge in Michigan. There are states where juries decide divorces, but in Michigan, it's all decided by the judge. But that's what a trial court is. And again, all of our courts in Washtenaw County are trial courts. Our court system is set up with the district court as being the court that handles small claims. They handle misdemeanors. They handle traffic matters. They handle civil disputes where the amount in controversy is less than $25,000, and a host of other landlord-tenant, kind of a mishmash of things that are handled in the district court. If you are in the district court and you're unsatisfied with your result, then you will go to the circuit court. That's where an appeal is taken from a district court decision. As I said, I'm in the circuit court. Our circuit court is 5 judges, and we also have 2 probate judges who are in our building. And in Washtenaw County, we're considered a consolidated court. So the 7 of us, 5 circuit judges and 2 probate judges, all work together, and we are cross-assigned. On any given day, I could handle a probate matter, or a probate judge could handle a circuit court type jurisdiction sort of things. The probate court traditionally handles estates. They handle petitions for mental illness. They handle the juvenile matters are traditionally assigned to the probate court. I'm trying to hit the highlights. Of course, there are lots of other less common types of actions that happen in the probate court. The circuit court is your family law matters, divorce. It is felonies. It's civil disputes where the amount in controversy is over $25,000. And in the circuit court is the only court that, with one small exception, that acts as both a trial court and a court of appeals, because the circuit court handles the appeals from the district court. So that's kind of a quick overview of what the trial courts look like in Washtenaw County. And I'll talk a bit about our district courts. The district courts in Washtenaw County are 14A, 14B, and the 15th district. They're different, and they're geographically distinguished by the fact that they serve 15th district serves City of Ann Arbor, 14B serves Ypsilanti Township, and 14A serves all the rest of the county. The district courts are in a smaller county or a less populous county, there would be only one district court typically. We have two other district courts, the ones that serves Ypsilanti Township and City of Ann Arbor, because the populations of those two jurisdictions are bigger. And by statute, any city of a certain size has the right to their own district court. They have to fund it. Ypsilanti Township has chosen to have their own district court. There is one judge there. That judge is Irwin, Washington. In the 14A district court, again, that's the district court that serves all the rest of the county, there are three district judges. That's Anna Freshour, Cedric Simpson, and Carl Barr. And the 15th district court, which serves the City of Ann Arbor, is Karen Valvo, Joe Burke, and Miriam Perry. And see, I'm working without notes. Joe Burke is retiring at the end of this year. And so we have an open seat for that election. And there are two candidates for that court. They're both here, I believe. Yes. And there is an open seat in the circuit court this year. That is Timothy Connors is retiring, and there are two candidates for that seat. Judicial elections are nonpartisan elections. That doesn't mean that you can't run if you're a Democrat or a Republican, or that you're not allowed to call yourself a Democrat or a Republican. It just means that you're not nominated by your party and that there is no party designation on the ballot. But you should be mindful that that judges, while we are committed to being impartial, we all come to the bench with our life experiences. And you can look at the U.S. Supreme Court and know that that your life experience and who you are in your belief system can have an impact on how you view the world around you and how you consider and make decisions. Decisions that are, as you well know, we only need to talk about Roe versus Wade for a second, decisions that have a tremendous impact on people's lives. So I would love to answer any questions that you have. I know I've kind of gone over this pretty quickly. I will mention also that on that diagram, you'll see a couple of little asterisks where I've made corrections to it. When I made that diagram, it was correct. I was reviewing it again last night and realized that that since that diagram was last updated, we've added a judge in the Michigan Court of Appeals, and we have consolidated. I say we, I mean all of us as a state, consolidated a couple of the district courts into from 107 district courts in the state to only 105. I mention that not just to show you that I know what I'm talking about, that it was correct when I made it, but also that it changes. The legislature makes changes to the judicial system from time to time and determines that we need more judges here or fewer judges there. And usually that has to do with populations that, we know that Detroit has shrunk a lot in the not so far past, not so distant past, and Ann Arbor has grown. We are potentially in a position of adding a circuit judge in Washtenaw County before too long. It's not happening tomorrow or next year. But the state and the legislature do make adjustments to the court system when our population changes or moves. Cookie. Good to see you.
Oh, yeah. One sec. Oh, here's your microphone here.
Why did Bridget Mary McCormick resign?
Because she wanted to break my heart.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think that I know she did a tremendous amount of very, very hard work while she was in the Supreme Court and while she was the Chief Justice of the Michigan Supreme Court. She is and was, I should say, as present as Debbie Dingell. She worked night and day, dawn to dusk and beyond. And I think she felt that she had done what good she could do, and there were other things that she was interested in. But she is very, very, very much missed.
And my heart is still broken.
Mine too. She's doing good things.
Yeah, Annie. Here.
Can you share what type of docket the new judge would have for the circuit court?
I can. I just have to think for a second to remember what it's going to be. I'm pretty confident that it's going to be criminal matters, domestic, that's all of family, custody, divorce, and personal protection orders. Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm happy to introduce Stacie McNulty, who will be the moderator for our two judicial panels. Here you go.
Thank you. Okay, hi. My name's Stacie McNulty. Like she said, I'm an attorney here, I'm part of the programs committee, and I'm going to be moderating both panels today. So you are all welcome. That you'll be able to hear from district judge candidates for the 15th District Court first, and then circuit judge candidates for the 22nd Circuit Court. Just to give you an overview of kind of the format that we're going to work with, the candidates will have a 5-minute opening statement so they can tell you about themselves, their experience, their plans and thoughts for the bench. And then the moderator, as well as the audience, I'm going to begin with some planned questions, and then we'll take audience questions. Each candidate will answer the question, and candidates will have 3 minutes to respond. I wanted to have a bell, but instead we're going to have these timing cards. Thank you, Ray Ann. She's going to be the timer. So the yellow card, candidates, yellow card is 30 seconds left. Red card means it's time to wrap up. Okay. Before we begin, I just want to thank everyone for being here today. I just want to reflect that on this important opportunity that we have to learn about our local judicial candidates and hear from them about issues that impact our community before we elect them. Local judges have such a significant impact on the everyday lives of our community, the people, the families, the businesses, the property. They can determine child custody arrangements. They can send a young person to diversionary programs. They can send a young person to jail. They can resolve disputes between businesses, landowners, tenants. So it really makes a difference in what goes on in our community. These judges do. That's why it's important, and that's why we're glad that they're here. So without further ado, we are going to begin with the candidates for district judge for the 15th District Court. Come on up. Let's see. Okay, we'll
Testing.
Yes, good. Thank you. Let me hold on.
We could share. We've shared before.
Okay, so we're going to start with Ms. Garwood. She'll give us a 5-minute kind of opening statement, and then we'll move on to Ms. Moore. Thanks.
I need the microphone. Good morning, everybody. As Stacie said, my name is Tamara Garwood. I'm pleased to be here with everyone today. I want to thank everyone for joining us, whether it's in person or by Zoom. I want to thank Stacie for moderating, Rayanne for being our timer. I will try to do what you tell me to do, try to follow instructions. And I want to thank the Washtenaw Dems for having this forum. As Stacie said, it really is important to have the best understanding you can of judicial races, because the reality is you may walk into the courtroom, you may need us, and so you want someone you can trust on the bench. I have lived in Ann Arbor for more than 25 years. My husband and I have been married for 25 years in November, and we have 2 daughters who I'm happy to have all 3 of them here today, 2 daughters in the Ann Arbor public schools. I've been a lawyer for 25 years, handling civil, criminal, probate, and family law matters through all phases of litigation. I have handled cases in every single aspect of the chart that Judge Kunke has provided to us. I've been in every one of those courts, although not physically appeared in the Supreme Court, just submitted documents in that court. I've also handled some international kidnapping cases in the federal courts as well. I'm trained as a mediator, as an arbitrator, and a guardian ad litem representing children in divorces and custody matters as well. For the past 8 years, I've been on the bench at the 15th District Court as the magistrate of that court. And really, it's the people's court. It's a high volume court. It's a fast paced court, and it's where people first interact in general with our judicial system. And at our court, at the 15th District Court, we handle landlord-tenant matters. We are the starting point for all criminal cases, whether they're misdemeanors or felonies. They all start at the district court level. We handle civil cases, as Judge Kunke said, with less than $25,000 in dispute. We handle civil infractions. So your parking tickets, your speeding tickets in Ann Arbor, you left your garbage cans out too long and you're going to end up with a ticket, and you're going to come to the district court to address that matter. We also have 3 specialty courts, and in my mind, they're really the jewels of the 15th District Court. We're fortunate to have a sobriety court, we have a mental health court, and we have a veterans court as well, which is near and dear to my heart as the daughter of a Vietnam veteran. As magistrate, I'm really involved in all of these different aspects of the district court. I am on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make probable cause determinations for search warrants. That happens all day and all night. My kids will tell you, at the grocery store, I'm having officers raise their right hand to swear to testimony right on my phone. I also make probable cause determinations in criminal cases, whether there's sufficient evidence to charge people with misdemeanors and felonies. I preside over our small claims division, so that's $7,000 or less in dispute. No attorneys are present for those hearings. I handle civil infractions. I created our alternative dispute resolution program at the court, and I administer that program as well, which is responsible for settling tens of thousands of civil cases in our court without the need for expensive trials. I get to officiate 3 weddings every Friday, which is a really nice way to end your week and end the day. Now, in courts, or in Washtenaw County, we have court every day of the year, which might surprise you. We have court on holidays and we have court on weekends. Those are criminal matters. We don't leave people sitting in jail without their first appearance in front of a judge for any period of time longer than necessary. So in fact, today I'm supposed to be across the parking lot, and one of the other magistrates swapped days with me. I'm there every 3rd holiday and every 3rd weekend handling those matters. Having been at the district court for 8 years, that experience has really given me a unique eye to the successes and the needs of the 15th District Court. To that end, I believe we need to increase our efficiency, we need to increase our effectiveness and our inclusion, not for some, but for everyone who comes to the 15th District Court. We need to put an end to cookie cutter justice. We need to look at those who come to court as individuals, not as their criminal histories and not just as their charges, as they are charged, but as individual people, and find solutions for those individuals. And we need to expand our community outreach, our community engagement, and working with young people so that young people can graduate with degrees, not criminal histories. I'm committed and dedicated to the 15th District Court, the hard work I have done there, and I look to expand that work as the next judge of the court. I don't think I got a yellow. Did I get a yellow? I did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say one more thing in closing. I believe that justice should be rooted in compassion, experience, integrity, fairness, and the right judicial temperament, so people know that they are not only heard, but understood. And every day I display that on the bench, and I look to continue to do so. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so it looks like we get a red, then a yellow. Is that the order, or yellow? Okay. It's fun stuff. We did another form that was a lot more intense on the timing, so we're just double checking. So yes, like Tammy said, thank you all so much for being here. I know that the judges aren't the most controversial, right, thing on the ballot, but it is important. It does matter. So I do appreciate everyone being here as well. So I'm running because I believe in restorative justice. I believe in increasing access to justice. I believe in supporting crime victims. And I know that these are things that our community wants to see more of on the bench. And Carol talked about this a little bit, but we know that the background you bring to the bench matters. When we look at the decisions that are being made that are coming down from our courts, be it on abortion, presidential immunity, right? We know that the background that the judges bring to the bench really matters. And it's really important that we here in our community pay attention to who we're putting on the bench, because they do impact what happens in the community. So just right here in Ann Arbor, we know we have a high eviction rate. We know we have it across the county, that tenants are struggling to have their voices heard in the middle of an affordable housing crisis. We know that. We know that Michigan ranks dead last in providing victim compensation. And we know that if victims don't receive the resources they need to recover, there's a high risk that they're going to come back as offenders. We know that right here in Washtenaw County, charges are disproportionately pursued against people who look like me. We know that. And we've always known that it feels like we have two justice systems, one for people who can and one for people who can't afford an attorney. In some way, shape, or form, our district court and who we put in there has the ability to impact all of these issues. So we do have to keep in mind that the background that a judge brings behind the bench, it really does matter. I started my career representing hundreds of individuals here in this community who couldn't afford an attorney. I did it across several areas of law. I built a reputation. I did it for tenants. I did it for crime victims. I did it for people in domestic court. I went from trial all the way to appeal, and I've won a lot of respect for my work for people directly on the ground in the community. I went on to the Department of Civil Rights, where I fought discrimination. And I've been with Washtenaw County since 2021 in multiple capacities, initially as a judicial attorney behind the bench, and also as a part-time juvenile referee, where I had the opportunity to actually hear cases. I am now in the prosecutor's office, where I work for Ellie Savitt. I'm the director of conviction integrity, and that basically means I investigate innocence cases. I help provide clemency and expungement support. I know firsthand what happens when our system fails. I know what happens when it doesn't work. And so yes, the district court and who we put in there, because this is usually an individual's first contact, right? If not the juvenile court, but most people, their first contact is for a minor issue, right? It's where people come into 15th District Court specifically, is where people come into our system for a minor offense, right? And sometimes repeatedly, but they are either going to end up on track for going deeper into our criminal system, or they're going to receive the resources they need to find a path forward. And we talked about the treatment courts. We talked about the fact that our district court actually has 3 treatment courts, right? Whether a judge has the background needed to actually connect with participants in the treatment courts and help them see a path forward matters. When you hear about Judge Burke talk about his impact on the sobriety court, he brings up personal experience. When you hear Irwin in 14B talk about her experience adjudicating over her sobriety court in 14B, she talks about the personal experience she brings to the bench. I feel like I'm going to be able to do that. I know that from my experience in juvenile court, that the background, the hardship that I've encountered as a person, just living, that I'm going to be able to connect with people and help them see a path forward. How hard a judge works at making sure that justice is served for people from all walks of life, be it criminal, be it civil, be it eviction court, it matters. That's what I'm bringing to the bench. I built my reputation. I have over 100 endorsements, not because I'm the popular kid in the class. I'm the kid in the back of the class strategizing, figuring out what we can do to make sure that the system works for everyone. I've always been that kid, and I earned it by doing hard work. If there's something more that we can be doing, if it's changing court rules at the local level, if it's changing them at the state level, I'm going to be in that room making sure that we're doing that work. That's why I'm running.
Great. Thank you both so much. We will begin with the Q&A period. I'll ask a few questions. They'll respond, and then we'll open it up to some questions from the audience. Okay. We're going to go in alternating order for responses. So I'm going to begin the question for Ms. Moore. Okay. So we know about the school to prison pipeline. And we've learned that in Washtenaw County in particular, there are significant and troubling racial disparities that exist in the criminal justice system, and particularly at entry points where the 15th District Court handles matters. For young people entering our court system, how would you as a judge exercise your discretion and authority to ensure that young offenders are supported and have a meaningful opportunity for rehabilitation?
So absolutely, just as Carol explained, the juvenile court is actually in our circuit court. It is not in our district court. However, yes, young people do come into our district court as soon as they're legally adults. And we do have the Holmes Youth Trainee Act, which is basically, we refer to it as HIDA. It's an opportunity where someone's coming in for a minor offense to basically receive essentially treatment court services, a diversion, right? And to get on a plan and to create a path forward so that they are moving out of the justice system. And when they complete that plan, they complete it with a clear record. Basically, it's called deferred action. It's the same as an expungement. They move on with a clear record. And so it really is important. We need judges who can connect with community members and make sure they understand that they're being given this opportunity, that the system is trying to partner with the community and making sure that they move forward. And historically, what we have is we have a historical distrust by many community members, particularly Black community members, because of what the justice system has done to our community. That distrust is serious. It is something that is going to be really hard to overcome unless we get appropriate representation on the bench, unless, for example, historically, juvenile courts are original treatment courts. They were places where we've always given treatment court services, where we've always believed in rehabilitation. But what happened with the Black community is they never got to take advantage of that for their juveniles. They rarely got to be treated as children who were perceived as people who could be rehabilitated. When they came into the system, they were charged as adults, right? And they were put into a prison pipeline. We need our courts to be partners with the system. We have to prove that we're partners. We have to make sure our treatment courts are funded. We have to put representation on the bench that the people can trust, that they know that when their young people come into this system, it's because we believe they can be rehabilitated, that we're going to put in the work and the resources to make sure they can be reintegrated and get on a path to go forward. That's what we need to be doing in our district courts. We need to be doing early intervention, and we need to regain the community's trust.
Thank you, Ms. Garwood.
Thank you.
No. We can share. All right. So regarding the school to prison pipeline and questions about what we do for juveniles in the court, some of you may be aware that every year on about 5 Saturdays in Ann Arbor, something happens. And as a result of that something, football games, the district court ends up with hundreds of tickets for young people who have either been consuming alcohol, who are under 21, or who are carrying alcohol around town, which is not allowed regardless of what tailgate you're attending. And I spend the entire fall working with this young population, people who've never been in court before, who didn't necessarily realize, I mean, certainly if you're 18 and you're drinking, you know that's an offense. But if you're walking around with the beer at a tailgate, you may not know that's an offense. And I deal with young people every day on the bench, trying to help them find solutions, trying to help them appreciate what they did was wrong. And I always say to young people when I see them, this is a speed bump. You had a bad day. And so you now have to look forward and decide, is this bad day going to define you? Or are you going to change what you did and you move forward? And so I believe the court has to be all about second chances, sometimes third, unfortunately, sometimes fourth, to find solutions for people so that we can keep juveniles out of the pipeline system. This year, I had an exceptional opportunity to work with 2 people from the prosecutor's office, 2 people from the public defender's office, and another judge in my district court. And we worked with 80 students at Lawton Elementary School. We spent countless hours at the school while they were learning about civics, and then later brought them to the court to do their own mock trial. It was an exceptional experience. Afterward, I got thank you letters, one from every single kid in this school, from their parents, from their teachers, and kids telling me they're never going to forget this experience. Getting to young people early and often really makes a difference in their lives. And I would guess that those children are going to have a different trajectory than if they had never come to the court and they had never met us. I do believe that when we talk about young people, when we talk about trying to make systemic change, I think it's important that we are aware of the changes that need to be made and the inequities that exist so that we can make change. We have to acknowledge those inequities and the problems in our system. We have to have education so we understand how to change what's wrong in our system. And most importantly, we have to have action. Education and awareness do nothing if there's not going to be action. And so that's why it's important to me to ensure that we get to young people early, we get to them often, so that we can give them things like HIDA, as Kerene was talking about, first offender programs, 7411, so that we can keep young people out of court. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The second question is, and Ms. Garwood, you'll answer first this time. We hear the phrase access to justice, but navigating and understanding the law and court systems without professional help is overwhelming, if not impossible for most people. How can the courts act to improve access to justice and increase access to legal aid services, legal education, self-help forms and tools, anything that will help Washtenaw County residents utilize the courts effectively?
Thank you. I, throughout my career, have worked hard to ensure access to justice and increased access to justice. I'm proud to say that I am a fellow with the Michigan State Bar Foundation, and every year work towards that goal of increasing access to justice. In my private time, I am a member of the board of directors for the Legal Resource Center through Eastern Michigan University. And it is a help center located at the circuit court where anyone can walk in to get assistance. If they don't have an attorney, they can get assistance with legal documents and filing documents. They have the ability to assist people doing electronic filing as well in that office. And I take great pleasure in spending my time doing that so we can have better resources for our community. In general, in the court, when I'm on the bench, it's really important to me because there are so many mysteries about what's happening in a courtroom that I take the time with people. And so when you're in the courtroom, I always want you to understand why you're there and understand what is happening and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Unfortunately, people refer to me as the slowest magistrate in the county. However, there's a reason I'm a little slower on the bench. It's because I engage with every single person who comes in front of me, asking questions, trying to figure out what brought you to court and what can the court do to assist you so you never come back to court, except for your regularly scheduled hearings, but so that you exit the court system as a success and don't chronically come to court. So I definitely think we all need to work together to increase access to justice. I would note that in our district court matters, in our criminal matters, that everyone who comes to court has an attorney through the Michigan Indigent Defense Fund that is paid for, that you have an attorney when you come to court for criminal matters. And in things like landlord-tenant matters and in civil matters, we share as much information as we can as the court to give people access to resources so they can get attorneys if it's something where they wouldn't qualify for an attorney to be appointed. Thanks.
Thank you. There's more.
All right. So I always try to drive the point home that I've been fighting for access to justice since my very first year of law school. That's when I took my first case at Legal Services. I've been doing it for over 2 decades now. It is my entire career. And so when I say access to justice, I mean on all points, we are constantly working to improve our justice system, to make it more inclusive, to make sure that we're working as hard as possible to have everyone get their day in court, because we know that just doesn't happen. We keep fighting for it, but it just doesn't happen. And so one of the things I did as a legal aid attorney is, we helped create an eviction diversion program. And we tried to make it, because you don't have a right, by the way, to an attorney in landlord-tenant court. But and as legal services attorneys, we could really only help about 3 out of the 10 people who came to us. That was just all the funding we had. But what we tried to do was we tried to be at court on dates where a court had an eviction docket and give everybody the opportunity, even if we couldn't represent them that day in court, the opportunity to actually speak with an attorney and learn about their rights. And it was hard and it was imperfect, and it continues to be hard and it continues to be imperfect, because there are really, we talked about this at other areas, there are really expensive reforms that need to happen. And sometimes the money isn't there, right? Sometimes the money just isn't there, but that doesn't mean you do nothing. And one thing you'll learn about me if you look at my website is I am never doing nothing. I am in many rooms. I understand it's expensive, but we have to do something. So one idea I have specifically for expanding access to justice in the district court on the landlord-tenant issues is bringing a treatment court specifically for the most vulnerable community members who are being basically removed from the cities if they're in subsidized housing and they're being evicted for behavioral problems. What I've seen over the years is that these are often people of color, people who will never be able to afford to live in this community once they lose that housing. And in a sense, they're being targeted and they're being given these sort of external treatment plans, right? That come back 30 days later, they violate it, they're immediately out. Right? There's really no judicial oversight whatsoever. We can do judicial oversight. We can do a court that actually gives people real options and real plans and make sure that they're being given legitimate opportunities to maintain that housing. So that's one idea I have for increasing access to justice. But I also just want to point out that it has always been on all fronts. It's about minimizing use of cash bail. It's about counsel at first appearance at arraignments. That's something that happened 10 years ago. I went in our district courts and I just sort of watched the arraignments happening without attorneys. And I wrote an article about what are we doing wrong? What are options, right? To make sure our system is actually working at this level. And I know there are more expensive reforms that we could be doing, but at the same time, I'm glad that we have made the reforms we've made so far. Just know that we are doing that work. I'm going to be someone who works hard to continue that work.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience? I'll have Tom come around to you. Tom, we do have a question, in the blue behind you.
Turned off. Is it on? Okay,
Okay.
magic.
Okay, who's in blue? Okay.
Hi, for both of you, I'd like to know your specific wish list for those reforms that you're talking about. Give me some specific examples of how things could change for the better.
Okay, we'll start the response with Ms. Moore, and the same time limits will apply.
So one, we just talked about the landlord tenant treatment court. I'm hoping to create and expand. Two, our treatment courts, even though we have 3 of them in 15th District Court, aren't well funded. They are running on a skeletal sort of staffing. And thankfully, we have actually increased our treatment courts in circuit court, which is great and important. But I think our treatment courts right now in our 15th District Court are really at risk. So I would like to basically improve and sustain those courts, make sure that they actually continue to exist, right? I don't know what docket I'm going to get. I don't know what treatment court I'm going to get. I know that Judge Burke had the sobriety court. And so if I have the opportunity to, preside over that court, I want to do the best I can for those people who are involved in that court. And so that's going to be something that I do. I want to continue to partner with the community and figure out what it is that we're not doing, how we can make changes. I want to make sure that crime victims are aware of how to receive support, what options are available, and that they're able to get support when they run into walls. And I know that whatever Michigan is doing, we're looking into this now, we rank dead last in making sure that they're getting that support, because it's really important that they do not come back as offenders. So that is very high on my list of things that I want to do.
There are a lot of things Kerene and I agree about, and certainly protecting crime victims and seeing that they are made whole is important to both of us, and it should be important to everybody here, everybody who's part of the community, and certainly that support is important. My specific wish list, I have a lot of things on my specific wish list. About 2 years ago during COVID, for whatever reason, we got rid of in the court a ton of first offender programs. They were just wiped out. Court was by Zoom. There was nobody from the city attorney's office or from the prosecutor's office coming to original hearings. And so that meant first offender programs wasn't eligible for people. We didn't have those there in the courtroom. So one of the things about 2 years ago I did is I went back to the city attorney, I went back to the prosecutor to see, is there any reason we can't get these programs up and running again? And we were able to do that. And I'm pleased that we were able to do that. I think it's important to expand our referrals to treatment courts. There's such great success in our treatment courts. As you know, we have 3 treatment courts. We have a sobriety court, we have the veterans court, and we have the mental health court. The Supreme Court of Michigan just released various statistics telling us that people who graduate from these specialty courts, they have better health overall. They have reduced homelessness. There's reduced joblessness. People are able to function again in society. And it's about a 1% recidivism, which is exceptional. So the more people we can get into these treatment courts, I think the better we can do. Another thing I'm working on right now is trying to find funding for people who need drug testing. So a lot of our misdemeanor cases, a lot of the criminal cases that we see, at the beginning of your case, you are not yet on probation. So you have various conditions, you are out on bond. And many times we release people, but we require them to have drug and alcohol testing. It's usually $12 per test. We require people to have tethers on. It's $25 to set up your scram tether that can tell us whether you're using alcohol or not. And usually it's $11 to $12 a day. And we are putting these tethers on an exceptional number of people every single day, and people who have no resources to pay for those tethers. And if it's at the beginning of your case, no one can help you. So people are making the decision, do I just stay in jail because I can't afford that tether? And judges are having to make the decision, do they let that happen or not put a tether on somebody and just let them out because they can't afford it? So that's one of the new projects that I'm working on, trying to find resources for those tethers, for that monitoring, so that we're not keeping in jail people in jail who we don't need to be in jail, and using less restrictive means to keep everybody safe. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more kind of short question. Is there another in the audience?
Short question.
Okay.
Technology, how has technology affected the Washtenaw County court system? What I'm saying is the people are no longer seen in person, they're seen on a screen. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, Ms. Garwood.
Thank you. So most of the courts are some kind of hybrid format. And a lot of us recently saw in the news, Judge Simpson, nationally it was picked up. He had somebody who appeared in court. His court is still broadcast on Zoom and YouTube. And so he had a person driving during their court hearing, and their license was suspended, and they were there for their license being suspended. So in general, what we're doing now in the courts, if you can't get to court, you live out of state, you are in rehab, you are unwell, from my perspective, I will always let you appear remotely. We do our best to broadcast our court cases. We put them up on YouTube for people to watch if they would like to watch. The goal is, and the state is telling us, they want people to come back to court. But it's not necessarily realistic. And we have this amazing technology. I mean, how many people are here right now remotely that can watch this? So we should be taking advantage of that technology. And in my mind, it's excellent for transparency. So people can actually see what's happening in the court. We should continue to take advantage of that technology. There are courts, though, that require that you have to be present. And there's certain circumstances where you have to be present. Well, the state has set out guidelines, and they say for these type of matters, for trials, you need to be there. And some of it is up to the judges for discretion, and some of it is preset.
I don't have a lot to add to that, except it is absolutely make court more convenient, right? For people who don't have time to, sometimes it's 4 hours, it's half your entire morning, right? Your entire day. And whether you end up in a local district court depends on whether you may have been on vacation, right? Or going to the theater in Detroit, right? And gotten pulled over. And so then you're in 36th district court all of a sudden, but you don't live there, right? So people are coming to the 15th district court from all over. Right. And so it is important that it's accessible, that they're able to get into the courthouse virtually, that they're able to have an effective and meaningful hearing, even if it's through a screen. And I believe we can do that. So that answers her question. So we're good.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to both of the candidates for participating. We got a lot from your answers, and we look forward to hearing more from you.
We don't get closings. I'm so hurt.
I can give you 1 minute, but do you want a minute?
I just want to say, you can have a minute too.
1 minute. All right.
I just want to say, because I think it's really hard. Forums are difficult. We're trying to speak to whatever issues you bring to us as best we can. But I think, and I try to make this point, there's just a lot of implicit bias out there, right? I walk through this world, I walk through metal detectors mostly as a Black woman, be it in the courthouse, the airport, it doesn't matter. So I, every day, just have my credentials stripped from me. So I do just want to take a second to tell you that I have worked hard on the ground in the community. I've served on a number of boards. I'm former Ann Arbor Human Rights Commissioner, former Ann Arbor District Library Trustee. I'm currently on the board of Neutral Zone. I've been on the board of Jim Toy, Equality Michigan. I'm the incoming chair of the State Bar LGBTQ+ section. I am very respected for my work. There are judges in here that I have challenged. I've left with nothing but the Constitution for them to stand on when they're making a decision. They know that this is who I am. I have earned the respect. It's why I was recruited to run for this seat. And it was Justice McCormick who first encouraged me to run for this seat. I have over 10 publications. I've trained attorneys locally, regionally, and across the country. I am very qualified to do this work. And I just want to make sure people do understand that.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Okay, I guess we stipulated to this. So I would say this, I recognize the issues and the disparities, the inequalities that we have with access to justice and within our system. And it is my goal, it has been my goal my entire career to work to rectify those problems and to ensure that everyone has their day in court. Everyone comes, they're not just heard, but they're understood. And that's what I do every day on the bench. I'm certainly a member of many organizations. I have my mug here. I'm the vice president of the Michigan Association of District Court Magistrates. I work there to ensure that laws reflect what we need for our communities to keep people safe and to protect the rights of those who come into the court. Laws shouldn't be stagnant. They have to change as times change and as we as people change. And so that's one of the things I do working with the other magistrates in the state of Michigan to ensure that we are making change and we are moving our laws and our courts forward in a progressive manner so that we can take care of these inequities and the issues that we all face. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I hope I have earned your vote in the November election. And certainly I invite you to look at our website, Garwood for Judge. We have signs and literature here. And I really hope everybody goes out to vote, not just for us, but we have a big decision to make. And I hope everybody makes the right decision when it comes to the president. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so this second panel will follow the same format. I will also allow the candidates a minute to closing statement. So right now we are hearing from circuit court judge candidates for the 22nd Circuit Court. Are you guys? You're fine. Good. All right, great. We'll get the info out in the beginning and during the answers. Okay, so we will first begin opening statement with Ms. Mood.
Is this on? Okay. Thank you, Ms. McNulty. Nice to meet you today. And thanks to all of you who are still hanging out. I know it's been a long morning. Thank you to the WCDP for putting this together. I've done these before myself, and I know it's a lot of work. For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is Janan Hamoud, and I'm running for Circuit Court Judge. I know my name's a little unique, so here's a tip to remember. Janan from Lebanon. That's what everyone calls me. It's where I'm from, and it rhymes. I am an attorney in Washtenaw County. I run my own practice. I do criminal defense, family law, and civil litigation. And as you heard from Judge Kunke, it's the bulk of what a circuit court judge would preside over. I've been running my own practice for 10 years. I lived in Ann Arbor. We moved here in the middle of my sophomore year of high school. Everyone always wants to hear about my background because I'm an immigrant. And so when I was thinking about what I was going to say in my opening today, I remembered my first encounter with a court in the United States. I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I was a federal court in Illinois. That's where we first moved to. And I was being sworn in as a U.S. citizen. And my family was so excited that my brother and I were going to become U.S. citizens. This is kind of a sad story, but I'm okay, so don't be sad for me. So we went in and we got sworn in, and my mom bought us cupcakes with little American flags on them so we could take them into our classroom and celebrate with our classmates, kind of like you did on your birthday. And I had a really special dress I wore that day. I think it was from JCPenney or Sears. It was the fanciest dress I had at the time. And as we were passing out the cupcakes, our classmates made fun of us. It wasn't something that they were accustomed to. It was different. And it was one of the many hurtful experiences my younger brother and I would have growing up in a predominantly white community. And as I thought about this story, I thought about my kids and the type of experiences they have here in Washtenaw County and how different it is for them. When I walk in to pick my kids up from school and I speak to them in Arabic, they don't even flinch. I used to be embarrassed to have my mom speak to me in Arabic in front of my friends, but to them, it's like nothing new. Their friend's mom who just picked them up spoke to them in Korean. The dad who came in before her spoke to their kid in Spanish. And that's what's amazing about our community. We really embrace the differences. It's so diverse. All of you in this room work so hard to keep it that way. That's what I do socially and professionally. It shows in the way I advocate for my clients. And now I'm excited to have the opportunity to do it on a larger scale if I'm elected to the circuit court bench. A little bit more about me professionally. I am the only candidate who is actively involved in our community. I have been on the Washtenaw County Bar Association for over 10 years. I started first as the new lawyer section co-chair, moving up the ranks each year I practiced to the Judiciary Committee for quite some time. I'm currently on the executive board serving as treasurer, and I'm the Public Service Pro Bono Committee co-chair and the Criminal Law Section co-chair. I just finished up my last term as the immediate past president for Women Lawyers Association of Michigan, Washtenaw region, and I was on that board for about 7 years. I interned at the Washtenaw County Public Defender's Office when I was in law school, and I externed my first job out of law school. You've heard the 15th District Court panelists talk about this at the 15th District Court, and I wrote the first grant for our Veterans Treatment Court, and I worked on the startup for the Mental Health Treatment Court. After that, I started my practice, which I've continued. Fun fact about that, I didn't have a website for the first 6 years that I practiced and worked solely off referrals. I was poor, so $0, zero money into marketing. But word of mouth is how I built my practice. And I got a lot of my referrals from mentoring attorneys who I worked with to develop the different areas that I'm trained in today. And a lot of my other referrals came from the people whose houses I cleaned when I was in law school and the regulars that I built relationships with as a server in our county for about a decade. So all those years of doing all those laborious jobs benefited me in the long run professionally. And I have to say, I was pretty surprised when those people came up to me and said, help us with these big problems. You can do this. And it took me a while to say, you know what? You do know what you're doing. You are a good lawyer. You've built this practice and have the confidence that I do. So much so that when my colleagues stepped forward and asked me to run for circuit court judge, if you had asked me 6 years ago if I thought I'd be doing that, I'd tell you no way. But now I'm confident to approach this. I have enormous support from our community. I have the support of over 100 local attorneys who practice in our county from the different bars. And I have the support of over 50 judges, organizations, and elected officials. I hope to earn your support today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boros.
Yes, Boros. Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. My name is Jeffrey Boros. Thank you all for coming and giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I appreciate your willingness to listen. I was born and raised in Michigan, and I did my undergrad here in Washtenaw County over at EMU. Following my undergraduate, I went to law school at Tulane University down in New Orleans, a very unique and diverse city. However, following law school, I decided to come back home to Michigan, where I've worked as an attorney for over 12 years. I've primarily practiced handling family law matters, custody disputes, divorces, post-judgment, PPO kind of cases that would be heard in the circuit court. I also have extensive experience in the probate court, handling guardianships for incapacitated individuals and minors, conservatorships, which refers to handling the finances of those incapacitated individuals, and then will and trust contests, all litigated matters. So I've ample experience litigating in the court system and being in the courts. I also have done many civil litigation disputes, real property disputes, and disputes involving finances over $25,000. So I have plenty of experience in the circuit court issues. What's drawn me to want to be a judge is that putting the cart before the horse, I wanted to be a judge, which is why I became a lawyer. I've always been, growing up, one of those kids that, got upset and frustrated when the rules weren't applied fairly. I mean, you see it as young as school where, you know, some kids were treated differently than others for certain reasons, and it always frustrated me. That's why I wanted to be a judge, to have the opportunity to apply the law fairly and equally to everyone. I know Judge Kuhnke and the other candidates had discussed different backgrounds for different people and the judges and how that plays in the courtroom. My belief is, you know, my background shouldn't influence what happens in the courtroom. I know Ms. Moore mentioned implicit biases. I think, you know, as a judge, you need to be aware of the possibility of implicit biases, and you need to self-screen for that. You need to be able to look at yourself and criticize yourself and open to criticism from others for those implicit biases. Because at the end of the day, I don't think, you know, a judge's background and beliefs should play a role in their decision. Nobody gets to pick the judge for the case they have. And that comes into play because different judges view different things differently. And why should your case be decided differently down the hall if that judge has different beliefs than this judge? And, you know, it is evident to attorneys and litigants when that occurs. And so my goal would be to remove that from the equation to make sure that the law is getting applied fairly. As far as criminal law issues go, my approach would be rehabilitation. I think, you know, for criminal matters, rehabilitation should be the first goal. And then, you know, when that fails, then rely on punishment. I don't think the primary goal of the criminal justice system should just be to lock away everybody. I do think there should be accountability in the criminal justice system, but what accountability means to me isn't necessarily long prison sentences. I think we have a tendency to over-incarcerate in this country, and I think we need to use the resources and expand upon them for the treatment courts, the sobriety court, the veterans court. And, you know, in my experience, one of the common factors, I think, in people needing the court system are mental health issues. And I think the courts need to be aware of that. You know, mental health issues play a role in a lot of disputes, a lot of divorces, a lot of PPO cases, and even, you know, in a lot of my real property disputes, you know, you'd think, you know, it's just two neighbors arguing over a property line. The mental health issues can come into play there as well. So I think the courts need to be cognizant of those and aware of those, and use those resources to try and primarily help the people first, and then see if they can keep the people from coming back, because the court shouldn't be a revolving door where we see the same people in and out day after day. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the first question will be answered by Mr. Warros. And all right, as a judge, how will your approach and actions demonstrate an understanding of the intersectionality of the criminal legal system and public health and social determinants, including mental illness, trauma, poverty, and addiction?
Well, I think that kind of goes into what I was just saying. I mean, a lot of these addiction and mental health issues are the reasons people end up in court to begin with, whether it be in a criminal matter or a family litigation matter. These are issues that are the underlying causes, I believe, of the reason the people are in the courts. So I think, first off, an awareness of why the people are there is helpful. And then to understand, you know, how can we apply the tools we have to ensure that the people are getting treatment for what they need. You know, with somebody that has, you know, 3 or 4 OWIs or OUIs, the issue is obviously not that they make poor decisions. The issue is that the person's probably an alcoholic. You don't get repeated DUIs and OUIs because, you know, you just make a bad decision every now and again. So, you know, you have to look at the underlying reason and try to treat that and make sure that the person's getting the help they need. Because if you can resolve that person's alcoholism, they're going to stop offending in that manner. And similarly with mental health issues, those are a little more complex because, you know, making sure people receive the treatment they need is very difficult. I've seen it a lot in the probate court. You know, you can get a guardianship over somebody to make decisions for them for their mental health decisions and all that, but having them stay on the treatment path is difficult. And so there needs to be some accountability for what the court is ordering to keep that person on that treatment path, because treatment is going to help them in the long run.
Thank you. Ms. Hamoud?
Yes, thank you. So I'm a criminal defense attorney, I told you, and I work with a lot of clients whose underlying issues, the root cause of why their justice involved are mental illness, mental health illnesses, trauma, homelessness. And it's my job as an attorney to identify those early on in representation and see what I can advocate in terms of placement for support services. You don't wait until DUI number 3 or 4 to say there's a problem. You identify that early on. And if the system is working correctly, you're going to identify someone who's more high risk or has a likelihood to reoffend for that offense based on certain factors. And you do that through screenings. You work with probation, pretrial diversion programs to kind of identify what it is that person needs before their case is adjudicated. And if you can provide that to them while their case is pending, to set them up for either better sentencing terms, maybe a kind of a diversion program so they don't have a criminal record if it's appropriate in the circumstances. So there's a lot of services that we have in Washtenaw County. You've heard a lot of the treatment courts that were brought up. And part of the job is identifying which treatment court fits the person's needs best, how we keep that person from being a danger to themselves and the rest of the community while we're doing this, and what we can do to give them long-term support services. At our circuit court, we have a drug court, and actually Judge Kunke runs the drug court, and Judge Slay has a drug court docket. Currently, it's a sobriety court. And that court is made up of participants who can relate to each other, because when you have a client, let's say they're dealing with a relapse, no one's going to understand that person better than someone else who's in drug court who's done it. It becomes a community network. They meet regularly that's the accountability element that comes in. They meet regularly. They provide each other with support. The participants do, but the judges are trained to identify the problems that arise in those courts. The probation staff or the oversight staff that works with the participants is also trained to deal with these types of programs. As a judge, I believe the treatment courts and the specialty courts are extremely important. I would work to continue to expand them, to find ways to allocate funding so that we could take on more participants, to identify some of the barriers that prohibit someone from coming in. And I'll give you an example here of a recent case. My client didn't qualify for the drug court, even though he truly needed it, because of a prior assaultive history. And so the judge in that case said, you know what, I'm going to make up my own hybrid probation treatment court for you. I'm going to give you this opportunity. I'm going to send you to treatment after sentencing because that's when you have funding to pay for it. And I'm going to have you come in and do regular reviews with me, just as he would be doing in a sobriety court program. So you think outside the box, you find what you need to do to address the problem. If the systems in place aren't currently doing that, and you make it your own, that's the discretion you have as a judge. That's what I would do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, this next question, Ms. Mood, you will answer first. It's important that our leaders, including our judges, reflect and understand the communities that are appearing in their courts. In what ways do you make an effort to engage with and learn from parts of our community that you might not otherwise find yourself in, both personally and professionally?
So thank you. Even though I'm a private attorney, I stay on all of the appointment lists. I'm on the Michigan Assigned Counsel list, and I provide services for indigent defense. And I'm also on the juvenile court appointed list. I did a training last year so that I could be on it in child protective proceedings. I think it's important as an attorney to always work in pro bono somehow, but to stay on these lists because these are the people that are most vulnerable who need our help the most. I see my job as a privilege and an obligation. Public service has always been a passion. It's been deep rooted since I was a young girl. And so that is how I make sure to contribute my part in working with the indigent people in our community, the minorities in our community, and give back. Additionally, as a family law lawyer, I also know I'm Muslim, just so you all know if you didn't know that about me. I know how there's very little understanding sometimes of our family court systems with Islamic divorces or Islamic custody, Islamic parenting time, those kinds of dynamics. So I make sure that I reach out to the Arab community and I say, hey, I'm here. If you need help, I can consult with you. I can work with your attorney to get them to understand that even though the law does not recognize this, you still have to live through it. And let's find a way to make kind of a hybrid of how we're going to move forward. These are the things that I actively seek out and I try to work with. I see as a mom, youth offenders have a special place in my heart just because I know what the child must be going through, what the parent must be going through. And I reach out in ways such as, I'll give you an example. I have a lot of teacher friends. So I go into classrooms and I do career day because I think it's important for young girls and young girls of color to see women in leadership roles. And I try to make that connection. I go out to schools and I do during Literacy Month, I read books and I pick very specially tailored books to send a message to the kids in those classrooms because I think it's important that they engage with leaders in our community. And something I always do is give out my cell phone number if someone asks. It doesn't matter if you're 12, if you're 16, if you're an adult. If you want my cell phone number, I'm happy to talk to you because along the way, I've had so many adults that have supported me in the goals that I needed, supported me when I've had difficulties, financially or otherwise. And I always think you should pay it back. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Warris?
Thank you. Yeah, on an initial view, obviously you have to understand your community and the members of your community and understand that everybody in the community is different. Not everybody is the same as you, whether it be race, gender, political beliefs, religion, all that stuff. We all have various differences. And, understanding that everybody comes from a different place and isn't coming from the same place you are, I think is number one when you engage with people either in the community or professionally. Professionally, I engage with everybody that comes to me in my office and seeks legal help, whether or not they have the funds to retain me, whether I can help them on a limited scale or help them pro bono, or whether I can't represent them but can just give them legal advice. I will engage with anyone and everybody that asks me questions about the legal system, because I do think access to the legal system starts with, the attorneys. I think ultimately, the state bar could do a much better job in mandating pro bono work for the attorneys, which would open up access to the legal system. But I think the difficulty with access to the legal system is it does affect the underrepresented communities and the less wealthy individuals who don't have the funds, means, or friends to help them get attorneys and do that. So by engaging with people and giving them advice, because oftentimes, in the old days before Zoom, there was a lot of in-person filing at the various courts. And I would go to file things and I would always see these unrepresented people having trouble. And the clerk's standard line is always, we're the clerk, we can't give legal advice. And that just basically chases them away. They don't have an understanding to do that. And it's probably even more difficult now because everything's online. They don't even get the clerk to tell them they can't give legal advice. They just filed forms and get them rejected. So, there's an awareness there. And in the old days when I was in person and I would see these people, I would always engage them and say, hey, what can I help you with? What do you need? Because, sometimes it might be a missing form. Sometimes they might have the wrong form completely. But I think it's incumbent on the attorneys to reach out and try to help whoever we can that has difficulty navigating the legal system, because it is overwhelming for even the attorneys can be overwhelmed by that at times because of the various procedures, policies, and different forms necessary. It's, you know, the court loves their forms apparently. But, you know, in doing so, you can reach out and help the various factors of the community that aren't as well versed in the legal system and get them the help they need.
Thank you. Okay. The next question is, when do you think incarceration as a sentence and pretrial is appropriate?
So at pretrial, I think, you know, I'm in agreement with, you know, the push for bail reform. I know the prosecutor's office in our county has made some strides in not seeking bail for a lot of people. I think, you know, pretrial incarceration is appropriate when the person is a danger to the community or a flight risk. Those are the two circumstances, you know, by law you're supposed to consider, and that always historically hasn't been considered. And, you know, we know that the bail system as it stands favors, you know, the wealthy. The wealthy people can get themselves out, or, you know, disfavors the minorities because they're more likely to get higher bail than the non-minorities. So I think pretrial incarceration is only appropriate in those circumstances when there's a danger to the community or a flight risk. As far as incarceration as a sentence, as I stated earlier, I don't think punishment is the goal of the criminal justice system. I think sometimes it's necessary. You know, it's hard to say where that line lies between trying to rehabilitate and incarcerate. I do think we over-incarcerate for a lot of nonviolent crimes in this country. I think, you know, with a lot of the drug crimes, the victim is usually the person being accused of the crime. They're the one with the drug problem. They're the one that needs help. And I think incarceration for them isn't going to necessarily solve the problem. However, with violent crimes, I do think there's a need to protect the community. And I do think, you know, depending on the offense and the violence, you know, incarceration would probably be appropriate. Not only, you know, not just to incarcerate, but incarcerate to remove any threats to the community, and incarcerate with the goal of helping that person get services, hopefully in the jail that they need to avoid reoffending for their violent crimes. So that's my position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there's two different types of incarceration. I think you mentioned pretrial and as a sentence. And so pretrial, most of my clients, if they're in custody, pretrial, they're in jail at the Washtenaw County Jail. Very few people are in prison waiting cases, although that does happen, but I'm talking about my personal experience here in our county. The people that are in jail, they're usually people that are facing more severe felonies. And a judge's job, the magistrate sees them first, is to find the least restrictive way to keep that person from harming themselves or the purported victim or other members of the community when they don't issue a bond, when they don't set a bond or a bail that somebody can pay. And so it's a balance, because as a judge, you have to balance the defendant's rights and balance the community safety. And it's always a fine line. So I think that only truly violent people should be detained, but it's case by case scenario. And it's hard when you don't have all the facts. I know that only very few things get published in the newspaper about what happens in these types of cases. When you don't have all the facts, it's hard to really get an understanding sometimes of why a judge sets bail or bond at what they set it to. As far as sentencing goes, again, I think that the least restrictive means should always be used. And if you are sentencing someone to a term of jail or a term of prison, The reason that you're likely doing that is because you have to follow what's called our sentencing guidelines. And Michigan has a manual, the sentencing guideline manual, that provides a score that that a judge is supposed to use to follow in terms of how long a person can be sentenced for. And the sentencing guidelines go based off of your prior offenses and different factors of your current offense. And you plug in the fact pattern based on a set of variables, and you get a number. And that number is basically what a judge is supposed to follow in terms of sentencing. If there's a reason to deviate, then I would likely deviate down or up, but you use this as the guidance in determining when to sentence. At my core, I want everyone to be rehabbed. I want to give everybody that opportunity. I'm a criminal defense attorney. It's in my nature. People joke around sometimes and say, she's not going to send anyone to prison. And that's at my core, right? But you also have to, when you take on a different role, I'm no longer an advocate for my client. You have to look at the big picture. There are victims involved. There's community safety to consider. And so it becomes more difficult to make that determination in terms of, I'm not going to send you to prison. I'm not going to send you to jail. You're not going to learn anything. I don't believe in that. You do learn things in jail. You do learn things in prison. There's programming. There's resources that are supposed to help you rehab. And I would like to give everyone an opportunity to when appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience? We have one over there. Thank you, Tom, for running.
Yes, on your part. And I've always been curious about this. In your opinion, each of you, what % of violent criminals who are incarcerated, in your opinion, get effective rehabilitation while they're incarcerated? What percentage would you guess?
So I can't give you a percentage, but there's good programming and there's bad programming. And I think that the judge has discretion to, that's one of the things I would look at. We talk about this all the time. Does this type of programming really work? We don't think it does. There's MRT, there's Down Farms, there's, you work with community mental health, all the different resources. Is this just a checklist that they have to do? Or is this something that's tailored to that individual? There is a lot of good programming out there. People say anger management, they throw out this programming. These have to be revisited and revised. We have a lot of data now that we can look at and see what's functioning, what isn't. But there is a lot of good programming. It's just, we need to pay more attention to what we're matching people up with in terms of the support services. And if I felt a program wasn't working, I wouldn't order someone to take that program just because it's a recommendation on a sheet. So I think judges need to be more involved in that. And I think being on the other side of things with my client, I have a better gauge of what programs that are available that I like and I don't like and what would work and not work. And I would follow suit with my experiences in that over the last 10 years. But I don't have a statistic to give you. But I do know that we are certain that a lot of the programming is beneficial, but we're also just as certain that some of the programming isn't effective.
Thank you. Mr. Warros?
Thank you. I think it would be a little bit reckless to just throw out a percentage as well. But I will say whatever that percentage is, I think it could be better. I think there's always room for improvement. And I think with some of it too, it goes to trying to find the underlying cause of the person. If this person is violent and in prison, are they violent in prison because they have an underlying situation that caused them to be violent? Or is this just their inherent nature to be violent? Some people can be rehabilitated. I think there are people that can't be. But I don't think it shouldn't be tried. I think we should work on whatever programs we can to improve it, to make sure, whoever is in prison is getting some sort of treatment so that when they get out, they're not coming back.
Any other questions? Kathy?
1 second here.
This will probably be our last question of the day. Thank you.
So since there are no other questions, I thought I would just answer your question a little bit. And this is probably something that our judicial candidates have also noticed. in terms of jails, one of the big things that we have found is that programming, and I'm sure it is also true for prisons, that programming that starts in jail or starts in prison is so much more impactful when it is continued and supportive after people are released. So it is not, when you talk, you try to pin it down just, is this programming effective in jails or prisons? That's not how it is most impactful. It, working with the community, both folks who are coming out of jails and prisons, the data shows that if the community is involved and supportive and the programming is continued, it's much, much more impactful. Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody online. Glad you were here. All of you new people who came, you're heroic. You're still here. Thank you for coming. Definitely come back. Also, thank you, Stacie McNulty. Beautiful job, as always. Thank you to the candidates who participated in the panels. Thank you to Rayanne Weymouth for bringing us homemade goodies every month. Thank you to Eli Nathans for bringing wonderful store-bought goodies every month and for organizing the programs. Thank you to Jim Russo and Diana. What's your last name again? Zahn, Diana Zahn, for making all of this work technologically. Thank you, Carol, Judge Kunke, for your explanation of the judicial system. That's it. Go over to Frog Island and meet up with your CD6 colleagues. And also the garden party. Do not forget the garden party, July 27th. We need you there. And come and hear Dana Nessel up close and personal. All right. Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody. We have an announcement.
District court is.
Wait, hey, honey, wait, Jenna.
Sorry. The district court seat, the 15th district court, people in the city of Ann Arbor can vote. For circuit court, we just had this question. It's countywide, so it's open to everybody. Also, if you want a sign that says Janan for judge, please grab one from the door. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're with us, Stacie. You were so impressive. You too, Tom.
Oh, hey.
Oh.
Do what I can.